You're listening to a Bored to Death solo cast, where one member of our clan talks TV shows and movies in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, another assorted gender assignations. Welcome to the Bored to Death solo cast, where one person talks TV shows and movies in easily digestible chunks. I'm Chris, and I am about to do Season 3, Episode 5 of Star Trek Discovery, Die Trying. Now, where we last left off with the Discovery crew was morale was really low because they were all figuring, well, if anything happens to us, no one's going to warn us. No one's not going to know that we're actually dead. And Adira is trying to unlock the memories of her Trill symbiont on the Trill homeworld, which at first they said no, because you're basically an abomination. Trill symbiont has never been part of a human before, or a non-Trill before. You technically should not be compatible. And one of the symbiont guardians says, I want to help you. So they end up helping her unlock the memories of the symbiont, including all of the previous hosts of the symbiont. 3 of them were Federation, one of them being the Federation Admiral that they need to unlock the memories of to find out where Starfleet headquarters is located. So, meanwhile, on Discovery herself, Saru is trying to boost morale, and he ends up figuring out how the best way to do that, which he thinks is to basically give everybody the day off except for like the crew that he works closest with, by giving them all dinner. And it turns out basically just show an old comedy, an old black and white comedy on in the main shuttle bay, and that ended up cheering everybody up. So this episode kind of got a little semi-spoiler in terms of like who is going to be in the episode actor-wise, not character-wise. But this episode has Oded Fehr, who is best known for being in the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. If you remember his character, he was basically the one who had the cool falcon and the tattoos on his face. I can't remember his character's name because it's been a very long time since I've seen those films. But if you've seen the films, you know which character I'm talking about. And also stars David Cronenberg. And that was a little unexpected. If you don't know who he is, he has done movies like Scanners, Dead Zone, Videodrome. He's done a lot of stuff. He's mainly horror movies, so it's gonna be kind of interesting to see what role he plays in this. Based on the images that I've seen of Oded Fehr's character, it looks like he's playing an admiral. So it's gonna be kind of exciting to see him in this, because I am a fan of his. I loved his work in The Mummy, and and the Deuce Bigalow films. I'm not gonna lie, I like him in those films too. I thought it was hilarious. So anyway, so this episode is Discovery reuniting with the Federation, finding out what remains of Starfleet and the Federation, and them essentially trying to figure out probably what happened with the burn, like what caused the burn. That's been the question so far in the past 4 episodes, is what caused it. So, anyways, I will see you after the binge.
While the binge is happening, thanks for listening to our podcast. Please give us a like and subscribe and spread the word. You can reach us on social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast family, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Girls Who Like, and The Nerd Table. please consider supporting CKCC Radio on Patreon. And now, the binge is done, so let's get to the discussion.
And I'm back. Just finished watching the episode, Die Trying. And this episode shows the new Federation headquarters, which beforehand was actually in San Francisco. But probably as a result of the burn and probably other situations, relocated to another section of space. And when they discover it, it's basically concealed in, I want to call it a cloak, but it's more like a veil that's made to look like space around it, so it's more like mirroring the stars that are around it. But I guess you can easily just pass right through it because Discovery comes up to it and Saru says, well, they're expecting us. So they travel through, and as they're traveling through, the crew is looking at all of these new starships that are surrounding them. Like, one of them is a ship called the USS Constitution, which they said, oh, is that an advanced Constitution class? They also come across the USS Voyager J, which has actually been confirmed as being a 32nd century version of the Intrepid class, which is most commonly known as being USS Voyager. Another ship that they flew by was the USS Nog, which has also been confirmed as being an Eisenberg class. Now, this was a touching little tribute to actor Aaron Eisenberg, who played Nog in Deep Space Nine and later came back to the role in Star Trek Online, who unfortunately passed away, and so this was a touching little tribute to him for both the actor and the character, especially since the character did eventually make it as the first Ferengi to achieve the role of captain in the Federation. So he did eventually make his own command. I just don't know what ship he eventually got. And they also come across what looks like a giant floating park. Like, you see trees and everything inside, which Tilly goes, it's a floating forest. Which of course gets everybody laughing. It's a very good lighthearted moment. You know, you see everybody is cheery now. They're happy. They also see that this veil is being powered by all of the starships that are in there. Now, they didn't really specify what happens if one ship leaves. Does another one have to come in to replace it? And so Discovery goes and sets up right in front of where the main Federation headquarters building is. I don't want to call it a building. It's essentially a space station, but it's pretty small. It's not like Space Dock. Like, you don't see Space Dock at all. The one that we know of from, like, what we saw the USS Enterprise go into at the beginning of Star Trek 3. It doesn't look anything like that. So they beam aboard. It's Saru and Adira and Michael Burnham. They beam aboard and they meet Oded Fehr's character, who I had said was an admiral for Starfleet, and his character's name is Charles Vance. So he says, this is very interesting because you're a Federation ship that we don't really know anything about, and so we're going to need to debrief you as to what happened. And while they're talking, somebody comes up to them and says that this new species has been basically sick and is being treated by their very, very advanced AI, EMH, medical officer, and they look down and they see that he's trying to treat them, and they have some sort of like unknown illness, and they also said that the medical bay is actually full, and they're having to treat patients in the hallways. So when they hear this, Saru and Michael Burnham both say, well, if you let us help, we can trace where they've been to and figure out what it is that's making them sick. And Vance says, unfortunately, we can't do that just yet. We need to debrief your entire crew to find out what's going on with you guys. Like, where and when did you come from? How did you get here? What's your story? So first he talks with Saru and Burnham. Meanwhile, they had to take Adira to basically get the memories from the symbiont for the Starfleet Admiral that they were looking for, Admiral Tall. And so she gets whisked away, and they are talking in the Admiral's office, and he says, I honestly don't really believe that you, and mind you, they told them essentially everything, Control, Section 31, the Sphere, and the reason why, and the Red Angel, and he says, well, we don't have any record of a Red Angel or Control or anything of that, and our history says that USS Discovery was destroyed in 2258. So you are sitting right here, but at the same time, he's kind of like having a hard time trying to piece everything together and believe what they are trying to say. And this is when he says, I need to go and debrief, or we need to go and debrief your entire crew. If everything that they say matches up with what you say, then yeah, we'll basically believe you. So that's what they do. And the person who they actually get like a hologram to talk with the crew, and they get two for some reason to talk with Philippa Georgiou, and this is where Michael Cronenberg's character comes in, and Georgiou actually figures out how to disrupt the holograms by blinking really fast. It gets explained in the episode. So she turns and looks at him and says, you're not a hologram, you're real, and what's your story? And so the two of them get to talking, and he says that his birthday was April 5th, which is First Contact Day, and he is well aware of the mirror universe, and he goes and says that it's been 500 years since last contact with the mirror universe, and that the Terran Empire fell apart. And if you go back and you watch Deep Space Nine, and you watch the mirror universe episodes, that is actually what happens, and it goes back to when Spock, mirror universe Spock, became the emperor of the Terran Empire, because it dissolved because of him taking what Prime Universe Kirk had told him in terms of, like, this is how you can make things better for everybody. And that, unfortunately, made the Terran Empire way less cruel, and other alien species like the Klingon Empire, or what was left of the Klingon Empire at that point, led them to rise up against the Terran Empire and overthrew them, and basically turned humans into slaves. Hence why you saw the ones in the Mirror Universe on Terok Nor, or Deep Space Nine, if you really want to call it that, in the Mirror Universe, why they were all basically working in, like, the mines, and why they were all essentially slaves at that point. So anyways, Philippa learns that, and it looks like it just, like, completely breaks her. And the fact that Cronenberg says, there's no real reason for you to be here, so there must be somebody on this ship that you actually care for. And she just kind of just gets this blank stare on her face. So meanwhile, Admiral Vance tells Burnham, and we also find out that Saru's people in the 25th century actually became a part of the Federation, which he was actually happy to hear. But Vance also tells Saru that they have not heard from his people in quite some time now because of how far out their planet is. And because, well, no dilithium, so they're not really able to travel out that far. There's probably like a distance that Federation ships can actually travel to at this point because of the lack of dilithium. So he tells them, so what we're going to do is we're going to take your crew and we're going to assign them all to different ships. We're going to study the spore drive to essentially replicate it and to add it to other ships. And we are going to retrofit Discovery, which heavily bothers Michael and Saru. And she says, why don't you just send us out to find out how to cure this illness? We're a science vessel. We know what to do. We have experience already working with the spore drive. We can go out and do this ourselves. And so he basically says, okay, but I'm going to send this officer to go with you to essentially keep an eye on you. So Michael actually ends up taking command of Discovery. This is the first time we see her take command of any ship, really, because, granted, yeah, she tried to overthrow the Prime Universe Philippa Georgiou on the USS Shenzhou in the first 2 episodes, which led to a mutiny, which led to basically the start of the whole Klingon War with the Federation. So we get to see that, and they end up using the spore drive to go to an ion cloud, which is where a ship is that the crew is basically Nan's people. Nan is the chief security officer who transferred from the Enterprise. And she says, well, I haven't seen any of my people since I joined the Federation. And she said that when she joined Starfleet, her family was actually devastated because it means that they would never see her again. And she says, well, I can't imagine how they must have felt after I died. So they go into this ship after pulling out with a tractor beam, mind you. And while they're on, so her character has these like breathing devices on her, or on the sides of her face. And when they come on, she just goes, because it's the environment of her planet, she just goes and pops them off, and her eye color changes when she goes to her more natural environment, which Michael notices, where she says, your eye color changed. She goes, well, different environment, natural me. Or natural environment, natural me, that's what she says. So, they go into, well, mind you, the inside, well, yes, it is, the inside of the ship, it does have, the usual metal corridors and whatever, but there's a lot of plant life covering everything. and it turns out basically the captain of this ship is a scientist. This is a science vessel, and these plants have the cure that this species needs, and they find out that the head scientist of this ship is out of phase, and they don't know why, and they think that it has to do with the fact that it has to do with the ion storm that they're in. So what they do is they're like, well, we need his voice to get to these seeds that we need. That now they find his family, his wife and his 2 daughters, and unfortunately, the 3 of them are actually dead. But he's keeping them in stasis because he's still trying to save them. He has not accepted the fact that they are gone. Michael Burnham ends up getting him to accept the fact that they're gone. And Non, after they get the plants that they need to cure this alien species that's in Federation headquarters, that's being treated there, Non says, I'm going to go ahead and stay here, and I'm going to help him out, and I'm going to make sure that his family gets a proper burial on our home planet. Michael says, okay, maybe we'll see the character again later on. I honestly hope we do, because I actually like the character. And they take her and leave her there, and Michael leaves, and she looks out the window and watches Discovery use the spore drive and leaves the area. And that's the last we see of Non. So they go back and tell Admiral Vance, like, hey, we did everything. We successfully did the mission. He says, yes, I read the reports. And now we can cure these people. And he asks them, is there anything else that you need to know? And Michael says, the burn. And he goes and says that the burn it happened like 120 years ago. It's still a mystery, which I can already tell is going to be explored throughout the rest of this season. So, meanwhile, Philippa Georgiou, she was basically, like I said, I feel Michael Cronenberg's character obviously said something to her that it looks like it just broke her. So Michael sees her standing in on one of the decks and walks up to her and says, Philippa? No response. And then she goes, are you okay? And then she looks over at Michael and says, why would you ask me that? And then just walks off. So something is obviously wrong with her. And another thing that I noticed is that it seems like, I think Lieutenant Detmer she has PTSD or something, because it seems like she's struggling to work her station now, because when they were pulling up to the ion cloud, it looks like she, at one point in time, had froze, and like she was essentially scared to move forward, even though the shields were holding from the storm. The shields went down to like 90%, which isn't really bad. All they had to do was just get close enough to pull this one ship out of the ion cloud. And so Vance ends up telling Saru and Michael that they are basically under his jurisdiction now, which means that they go and do whatever he says. They both acknowledge it, and the episode ends with Michael and Saru standing by a window on Discovery saying, that while it doesn't feel like home, it eventually will. And that things will eventually start to look up for them. Now, overall, I thought this was actually really cool to see, was the advancement in the ships and the subtle little nods of sorts to, like, past Trek. Like, yes, you see the USS Voyager J, you see the tribute to Aaron Eisenberg, you see, like, the futuristic Constitution class. At least as far as I know, it's a futuristic Constitution class. The ship is called the USS Constitution. And you get to see, like, all the cool advancements that the Federation has had in the 30th centuries. 32nd century. And honestly, I'm still curious as to what's going to happen next, essentially, because the preview for the next episode, it shows Book coming back, and it looks like he's on a prison planet, and I think they're also going to explore a little bit, because it showed in the first episode that the Orions and the Andorians were working together. I don't know whether or not the Andorians left the Federation and joined the Orion Syndicate. That's how it looks. And that might be explored a little bit more as well in upcoming episodes. But yeah, it's about it in terms of what I think of, or my thoughts on this current episode. And it's also sad to see Nan leave, because, like I said, I thought that she was actually a pretty cool character to have around. I know they didn't really do a whole lot with her, but still, it's interesting to see newer aliens in Star Trek. So, anyways, I'm Chris, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast. Be sure to check out our library of past podcasts via CKCC Radio or via our YouTube channel, and give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you after our next binge.